My beloved child. Do not scroll past this one. Somewhere, right now, there is a letter that was never sent. Written by someone you haven't met yet. Words they were too afraid to say out loud. Tonight, beloved, I am finally going to deliver it to you. But before I do, I need you to stay until the very end. Because hidden inside this message is a feeling I am going to ask you to watch for. You did not open this video by accident tonight. Something has been guiding you here, beloved, and it was not random. Once I describe it, you will recognize it instantly. And you will understand why tonight, of all nights, was the night I chose to tell you. If you leave now, you will only get half the letter. So stay with me, beloved. Turn the volume up. Find somewhere quiet. Let me read you the words someone has been too afraid to send. I have been writing this story for a long time. Longer than you know. Every unanswered prayer. Every silent night. Every time you wondered if anyone was even listening. I heard every word, beloved. And tonight, I want to tell you what happens next. This is Gentle Whisper Grace, beloved. And tonight, this letter is only for you. I know you've opened messages like this before, beloved. Hoping this would finally be the one that changes something. Let this be that one tonight. Not because of anything magical in these words, but because I am the author actually writing them over your life. Before you took your first breath, beloved, I started writing your story. Not with ink. With intention. Every page had a purpose, even the ones that felt like they were written wrong. I want you to hear this clearly tonight. A story written for two people can be read by one for a while. Hold on to that image for a moment, beloved, because it matters more than it seems tonight. But it was never meant to end that way. You have wondered, some nights, if your chapter was somehow written incomplete. If you were left out of a plan everyone else seemed to receive. If every person who has ever left proved something true about your worth. Beloved, hear me now. Nothing is missing from your story. It has simply been waiting for the next chapter to be written. And I have been writing that chapter since before either of you were born. I have not rushed a single page of it, beloved. I have written every line with your name already in mind. Somewhere right now, beloved, there is a heart still finding its words. Hold on to that image for a moment, beloved, because it matters more than it seems tonight. Not broken. Still being written. There is a difference, and I need you to understand it tonight. A broken page has nothing left to say. A page still being written is simply not finished yet. The person I am bringing to you has had their own hard chapters. Sentences that had to be crossed out. Paragraphs that had to be rewritten through disappointment. A whole voice that had to be found before it could ever speak to you clearly. You may look at your own life and wonder why it took this long to feel ready. I want you to see it differently starting tonight. You were never behind, beloved. You were simply being written the same patient way I have been writing them. And a story that has been written carefully reads far deeper and far truer than one that was rushed to a hurried ending. So be patient with the drafting still happening in you, beloved. A few more revisions, and your story will be ready for the letter I'm writing you. So be patient with the drafting still happening in you, beloved. A few more revisions, and your story will be ready for the letter I'm writing you. I know the silence has felt heavy, beloved. I feel that weight too, beloved, even when you can't see me carrying it with you. The seasons with no reply. The nights where hope felt like something only other people got to open. The long stretches where it felt like the mailbox had simply been forgotten. I want to tell you something about silence that you may not have considered before. A sealed envelope is not an empty one, beloved. It is not proof that the letter was never written. It simply means the timing wasn't right yet. If I opened every envelope too early, you would read words before you were ready to understand what they truly meant. The silence you are living in right now is not proof that nothing was ever written for you. It is simply the envelope, still waiting for the right moment to be opened. Do not tear it open, out of impatience, beloved. Trust the seal a little longer. It is not empty. It is intentional. One day you will reread this quiet season, and understand exactly why I asked you to wait through it. One day you will reread this quiet season, and understand exactly why I asked you to wait through it. I have watched you try to finish this story, by yourself more than once, beloved. This next part may be hard to hear, but I need you to hear it anyway, beloved. You have taken people who were never written into this chapter, and tried to force their names into the ending. I understand why, beloved. The waiting was heavy, and any name at all felt better than an empty page. But an ending forced with the wrong name doesn't read like your story. It reads like someone else's words, crossed out over your own handwriting. You have felt that, haven't you? The strange ache of realizing the name you wrote in was never actually written for this part. I did not let those chapters last, beloved. Because I refuse to let borrowed words take the place of what I am writing for you. I know it felt like loss when those pages closed. But I promise you, beloved, I was only clearing space for the handwriting that was actually meant to complete your story. Grieve the torn pages if you need to tonight, beloved. But do not mistake a blank page for an unfinished story. Grieve the torn pages if you need to tonight, beloved. But do not mistake a blank page for an unfinished story. Every hard chapter you've lived through was not wasted ink, beloved. Hear that clearly tonight, beloved, because it matters. It was practice. A season that taught you how to keep reading even when the plot felt unclear. A season that taught you how to trust the author even when the pages felt dark. A season that taught you the difference between a story written to impress and one written honestly. You are not the same reader you were 5 years ago. You understand depth now that you didn't then. You have patience now that you didn't then. You have a kind of honesty in your own voice that only comes from surviving chapters you didn't choose. The person I am bringing to you could not have understood your old story. They needed this version of you. The one still turning pages, after everything that tried to close the book early. So when you wonder why this chapter has taken so long, understand that I was never punishing you. I was writing you into the exact story I always meant for you to live. Every hard chapter had a purpose, beloved. Not one page of it was wasted on you. Every hard chapter had a purpose, beloved. Not one page of it was wasted on you. Right now, in a place you cannot see, beloved, someone is writing a letter addressed to a person they haven't met yet. I want you to sit with that thought for just a moment before we continue. They don't fully understand why yet. They only know that something in them has been shifting lately. An old sentence that used to satisfy them doesn't anymore. A restlessness they can't quite explain. A quiet sense that they are writing toward someone they can't yet name. That, beloved, is me, guiding their pen toward you. I am not doing this work in only one direction. While I shape your heart to receive this letter, I am shaping their hand to write it. 2 letters, written separately, in different rooms, on different timelines. Slowly, patiently, being addressed to the same home. You will not have to force this reply when it finally arrives. You will simply open the envelope and discover your name was already written on it. That moment, beloved, will feel less like meeting a stranger, and more like finally reading a letter you somehow already knew by heart. I know there are torn pages in your memory that still ache when you think of them, beloved. This may be hard to hear, but stay with me anyway, beloved. Letters that once felt so promising, until they weren't. Chapters that ended mid-sentence, with no explanation, and no closing line. I want to tell you something gently tonight. Those were never the wrong drafts. They were revisions, beloved. Every one of them taught you something you needed to know before the real letter began. One taught you what kind of words you will no longer accept. Another taught you what honesty actually reads like, even in small doses. Another simply taught you how to survive a torn page and still want to write again. None of it was wasted, even the parts that broke your heart. I do not waste torn pages, beloved. I bind them into wisdom, and I use that wisdom to prepare you for the letter that was always meant to be your last one. Look back at those torn pages with gratitude instead of grief, beloved. They taught you exactly what an honest letter is supposed to read like. Look back at those torn pages with gratitude instead of grief, beloved. They taught you exactly what an honest letter is supposed to read like. I know the fear that visits you some nights, beloved. The fear that your letter got lost in the mail. The fear that the story moved on without you. The fear that everyone else received their reply, while you're still checking an empty mailbox, wondering if anyone even knows your address. I want to speak directly to that fear tonight. Your letter did not get lost. An author does not forget the characters he wrote himself. I know exactly where your story is tonight, beloved. And I promise you, it has not been lost in the mail. The story is not finished without your reply. It cannot be. I wrote it that way on purpose, knowing exactly when your letter would arrive, and knowing it would arrive at precisely the right chapter. So release the fear that whispers you've been forgotten. Hear that again, beloved, because fear rarely believes it the first time it's spoken. You have not been forgotten. You are simply waiting for the next page. And I promise you, it is closer than you think. Keep your own pages in order, beloved. The postmaster does not write a letter he has no intention of delivering. When this person's letter finally reaches you, beloved, you will not have to ask if it's real. I want you to hold on to this promise closely tonight, beloved. Because it is the one your heart has been asking me for the longest. You will feel it the way you recognize handwriting you've somehow always known. There will be no confusion in the reading. No forcing words to mean something they don't. No pretending, no convincing yourself, no talking yourself into an ending that isn't real. It will simply make sense. The years of waiting, the wondering, the ache of an unopened envelope will finally settle into something whole. This is what I mean, beloved, when I say I am bringing your soulmate. Not simply someone who writes well. Someone whose handwriting was formed specifically to complete your story. You will know it the moment you read it. Beloved, I need you to believe that tonight. Because doubting it will only make the waiting feel heavier than it needs to be. There will be no second guessing that moment, beloved. It will simply be there, solid and certain, the instant your handwriting finally meets theirs. There will be no second guessing that moment, beloved. It will simply be there, solid and certain, the instant your handwriting finally meets theirs. I want to be honest with you about something tonight, beloved. Waiting can change your voice, if you let it. Bitterness can smudge a beautiful sentence. Fear can make you write smaller than you were ever meant to. Comparison can make you doubt a story I gave you on purpose. I am not asking you to wait quietly and shrink your handwriting. I am asking you to keep writing honestly while you wait. Keep living loudly, fully, unapologetically. In the story I gave you long before this waiting season began. Do not let the silence blur your words. The person I am bringing is not looking for a page left blank out of fear. They are looking for the voice that kept writing anyway. Do not let this season silence your pen, beloved. The bravest writing is always the writing done while still waiting for a reply. So write, beloved. Even now. A quiet voice can still be read by the one writing your story, beloved. Even when it feels like no one else is reading it. I know it feels, some days, like no one is watching over this delivery. Like your letter is drifting through a system, with no one keeping track. But I want you to remember something tonight, beloved. I have never once lost a single letter, in all my years of keeping this route. I am the postmaster of this story. I do not lose letters, and I never misplace an address. I know exactly where your letter is, and exactly where theirs is too. I am not distracted by every other envelope crossing these routes. I am not confused about your address. I have never once lost track of you, not for a single day. You only see your own mailbox. I see the whole route, including the letters that haven't arrived yet. Trust the postmaster, beloved. Even when the mailbox looks empty, from where you're standing. You have trusted me through harder chapters than this one, beloved. Trust me through this one too. The delivery is still coming. It has never once been lost. Rest in that tonight, beloved. A postmaster this devoted does not lose a single letter under his care. There comes a point in every letter, beloved, where the final lines are written and the ink begins, quietly, to dry. I want you to know. You are near that point now. I know it does not feel that way, from where you're sitting tonight, beloved. You may not feel it, yet in your circumstances. But I feel it in the letter I've been finishing. Small things will start to shift around you. A conversation that surprises you. A name that keeps returning to your thoughts. A door that opens more easily than you expected. None of these will feel dramatic in the moment they happen, beloved. But I want you to notice them when they come. Because they are the final lines being written before the seal. I rarely announce a finished letter with fireworks. I usually announce it quietly. The way a pen simply stops moving once the last word has finally been written. Do not miss it by staring too hard at the calendar, beloved. Keep your eyes open in the coming days, beloved. The final lines may be quieter than you expect, but they will be unmistakable once you notice them. I already know the exact address where your two letters will finally meet, beloved. I want you to hold on to this promise, especially closely tonight, beloved. I have known it since before either of you were ever written into this story. It may be somewhere ordinary. A street you have walked past 100 times without noticing it. Or somewhere entirely new, waiting quietly to become unforgettable. I am not going to tell you the details tonight, beloved. Because some letters are only meant to be opened, not read in advance. But I want you to keep living your own chapter fully, starting now. Say yes to detours you'd normally decline. Show up to ordinary days as if they might be sacred. Because one of them, beloved, absolutely will be. I am not asking you to chase this address down. I am asking you to keep your own story in good order. So that when the letter finally arrives, you are not hiding from your own life. You are already standing at the door, ready to receive it. That readiness, beloved, is not wasted time. It is exactly what makes the arrival, when it comes, feel like relief instead of struggle. I want to free you from something tonight, beloved. I am not asking you to write to every name that crosses your path. I am not asking you to change your handwriting to please someone who hasn't even arrived yet. I am not asking you to write louder out of desperation, hoping the right eyes finally notice your page. That kind of writing will only exhaust you. I am asking you to simply keep writing the story I gave you from the beginning. The right reader will not need convincing. They will recognize your handwriting immediately, the way a familiar letter stirs something before you even finish the first line. Let your hands rest instead of gripping the pen out of fear. Let your story stay honest instead of performing for approval. You do not have to be a finished writer before they arrive, beloved. They are not coming for a perfect story. They are coming for an honest one. I am not asking you to finish this letter by yourself. I am only asking you to trust the one who is already writing the next page. Release the pressure to write a perfect letter before they arrive, beloved. They are not coming for a flawless story. They are coming for your honest one. I want to picture something with you tonight, beloved. Let yourself actually imagine this, instead of rushing past it. Picture a reply that doesn't require translation. Picture a conversation that flows the way a familiar letter flows, line after line, without stumbling. Picture two handwritings finishing the same sentence, at the exact same moment, without either one leading. This is not simply a fantasy. I'm describing to you. This is the letter I have been writing, through every hard season you have already survived. The silence you feel right now is not your permanent address, beloved. It is a pause between paragraphs. And I promise you, a pause was never meant to be the whole letter. There is a closing line still coming. Picture ordinary mornings that feel like celebration, simply because they're shared. Picture someone remembering the small details you thought no one had noticed. Picture growing old slowly, together, without either of you keeping score of who gave more. I did not write you into a story spent bracing yourself alone, beloved. I wrote you into this. And I already know exactly how beautiful it reads. Let that be enough to carry you through the quiet stretch still ahead, beloved. Every pause between paragraphs ends eventually. This one will too. I know you want a date, beloved. A page number. A chapter. Something to circle, so the waiting finally feels bearable. I am not going to give you that tonight. Because dates were never really the point. Trust was always the point. If I gave you the exact page, you would stop reading the moment you had it. You would skip ahead instead of continuing to grow into the story you're meant to live. So instead of a date, I am giving you something better tonight. My word that the letter is coming. Let that be enough for you tonight, beloved. Let it carry you through the next quiet morning. The next lonely evening. The next moment you wonder if you somehow misread the whole story. You did not misread it. I am not an author who abandons a letter halfway through. I have finished every letter I have ever started, beloved. This one is no different. Before I bring you to the final part of tonight's message, I want to leave you with this, beloved. You do not have to wait anxiously. Read that one more time, beloved, slowly, and let it actually sink in. Anxious waiting exhausts your words and changes nothing about my timing. Peaceful waiting strengthens your voice and prepares you for what's actually coming. Choose peace tonight, even if it takes real practice at first. Choose to trust that I have never once lost track of your story. Even on the days it feels like maybe I have. I know how tired you are of hoping, beloved. But I did not begin this letter to leave it unfinished. I am the God who finishes what he starts. And I started this one a very long time ago. So breathe a little easier tonight, beloved. The hardest part of waiting is not the silence itself. It is believing, in the middle of it, that the author hasn't forgotten your story. I have not. I never will. Somewhere, right now, beloved. This person is living an entirely ordinary day. I want you to know something about them. Before we go any further tonight, they have wondered about you too, in their own quiet way, more than once. They may be tired, the same way you sometimes feel tired. They may be quietly wondering if their letter will ever be read by anyone. I want you to pray for them tonight. Not because you know their name yet, but simply because I do. Pray for their strength on the hardest days. Pray for the courage to keep writing, even when no one has replied yet. Pray that whatever they are walking through right now is preparing them the same way your own trials have prepared you. You are more connected to this writer than you realize, even now. Your prayers reach further than you think, beloved. I hear every one of them. And I carry them straight to the hand still writing your letter. This has never been one-sided work. It never was, and it never will be. While you pray for a writer you haven't met yet, beloved. Somewhere, they may be praying the exact same kind of prayer for you, without ever knowing your name. That is how closely I have written this story. I want to tell you something that might surprise you, beloved. It will probably not arrive on a day you prepared for. It will likely be an ordinary afternoon. The kind where you weren't thinking about any of this at all in that particular moment. That is how I usually work, beloved. In the middle of the unremarkable, not the middle of a grand delivery. You will simply be living your life. Doing something small and forgettable. And somewhere in that ordinary moment, an envelope will quietly find its way into your hands. I tell you this not so you'll check the mailbox anxiously every single day, but so that when it happens, you'll recognize my handwriting immediately. You will look back later and realize that the most important letter of your life arrived wearing the most ordinary postmark. So do not wait for a grand delivery, beloved. Just keep living your beautifully ordinary days. One of them is about to become the afternoon your whole story changes. Keep a little quiet excitement in your heart, for the ordinary days ahead, beloved. You never know which forgettable afternoon I've already marked in the margin. Beloved, before we pray, here is the feeling I promised to describe. I told you at the start of this message that I would not leave you without an answer. I keep my promises, beloved, even the small ones I make in the middle of the night. In the coming days, watch for a sudden, quiet certainty that arrives without any explanation at all. A moment where an old song plays, and it stops you completely. A moment where a stranger's small kindness catches you off guard. A moment where a name you haven't thought of in years crosses your mind, and your chest tightens gently. These are not rules, beloved, and they are not guarantees of a date or a name. They are simply the ink drying on a letter almost ready to be sent. When you notice one, beloved, whisper a quiet thank you. And keep writing your own story exactly as I've asked you to tonight. Let us pray together now, beloved. Close your eyes if you're able to. Set down whatever you've been carrying tonight, even just for these next few minutes. Let your shoulders drop. Let your grip on the pen loosen, just for now. I am asking you tonight to release every fear you've carried about writing this story alone forever. I am asking you to release every comparison that has told you your timing is somehow wrong. I am asking you to release the old torn pages, the old silences, the old voices that once told you no letter was coming. And now, beloved, I am asking you to receive. Receive peace over the waiting. Receive strength for the ordinary days that don't feel like progress, but quietly are. Receive courage to keep writing the story I gave you, even when no one else can read it yet. I am praying over the letter being written for you right now, this very moment. That it arrives safely, and at exactly the right hour. I am praying over your own words as well. That they stay honest, stay warm, stay fully yours until the moment they finally have someone to be read by. Watch over their hand as they write, the way you have always watched over mine. Soften whatever still needs softening in them. Heal whatever still needs healing in them. Bring their letter across my path at exactly the right moment. Not a day too soon, and not a day too late. I am sealing this promise over your life tonight. Your soulmate is coming. Not because you wrote enough to earn it. Not because you finally suffered long enough to deserve it. But because I started writing this letter long before you ever feared you'd finish the story alone. I have never once written a letter I didn't intend to deliver, beloved. Not one. Not ever. And I am not going to start with yours. Hold on to that tonight, beloved. Say it out loud if you need to tonight, even just once. My soulmate is coming, and their letter is already on its way to me. Let those words settle into your bones before you close your eyes. Let it be the last thing you believe before you fall asleep. And the very first thing you remember when you wake. This message is offered as encouragement and reflection. Not as a literal prediction of specific events or timing. My beloved child, thank you for staying with me tonight, all the way to the final line. You did not have to stay. You could have closed this video at any point tonight. But you didn't, beloved, and that tells me something about your heart. It tells me you are ready for what I'm about to say next. If this message reached the quiet, waiting place inside you, share it with someone else who needs to hear it too. And if these words found you exactly when you needed them. Subscribe to Gentle Whisper Grace, so this letter can keep finding you, on every night you need it most. I am not finished with your story, beloved. I am only just getting to the best chapter. Rest now. Your soulmate is coming. And I already know exactly what your names will look like written side by side. I have known it since before you ever learned to write your own name. Good night, beloved. I will be here the next time your heart needs me.